What's up, guys? Aaron here. Appreciate you jumping on to join me for another ride here in Southern Orange County. Well, actually, Central Southern Orange County. We're here in Irvine, California. I am jumping on to Von Karman, headed northbound here shortly. Got to run some errands down here and stop by the office for a little bit, but yeah, I wanted to talk about kind of what's happening in the real estate market. Welcome to 2026. It's January and it's chilly for California standards down here. Today it's 61 degrees. We've had rain for the last couple of weeks going through the holidays. Hope you guys had a Merry Christmas and are having a Happy New Year. But the real estate market has been intriguing. I would argue that it's still fairly balanced, leaning slightly more towards being a buyer's market. And what I mean by that is not necessarily that you're going to get the most smoking steel of a deal ever, but they are out there and they're a little more plentiful now than they have been. You know, I run into it pretty often, usually at least once a week, with sellers who are acting as if like it's still like 4 to 6 years ago. And truth of the matter is, it is not. This market in 2026 is different than it's been for a while. And interest rates have slowly been creeping down throughout 2025. We're now typically seeing anywhere from the high 5s to the low 6s in APR. And what that means for you is it's still less than the historical average. I might have already said this, so forgive me if I'm being redundant, but when we started putting record or making records of interest rates back in 1975, they were tracking those numbers in the APR, and the average is 7.75. So, you know, we're certainly well below that, which is really good. Of course, our price points are much different and much higher than what things were in 1975. I would have loved to have bought property back then because, you're in a much better position now with the way values have shot up. But, all in all, the market is steady. It's stable. People have had just enough time over the last, call it about 18 months, to kind of get used to what's been changing, not just with interest rates, but mainly with the buyer representation agreements and the standards going along with that. Buyers now, if you're not already aware, you have to, in order to schedule private showings with your agent, you've got to have a contract in place, very similar to what you would have when you're going to list and sell a place with your agent. And so, kind of like a listing agreement. You've got a compensation agreement stipulating how your agent's going to be compensated and obviously how you are represented by said agent. So, it's interesting to see people's reactions. I will admit, most reactions are indifferent to almost like eye roll level to maybe a little bit of frustration to, frankly, people's reactions. Sometimes it kicked them out of the market in terms of like, the buyer maybe wasn't that serious, and so now that they know they have to have a contract in place just to see a place, they're not as excited to go look at property. So, if that's you, that's okay, and maybe that'll change for you. Maybe you'll come back with the right agent. Maybe it'll not feel as scary or uncomfortable. But, this market, it's very doable. If you're looking to buy or sell, you've just got to have the right agent by your side that will advocate for you and give you the right suggestions that'll give you the ROI that you're looking for, especially if you're listing your property to get it sold. It takes a little more effort these days. You got to make sure that your home is in more sellable, quote unquote, condition than it used to be. And, that is another thing that sellers are not quite used to, and that's okay. But as a buyer, it's actually nice because you're now starting to see inventory coming on the market with sellers that actually know that it takes a little more effort. So they're taking better care of the property, having it maybe deeper cleaned, having the carpets cleaned or replaced. It's same with the hardwood floor or what have you, or tile or whatever it is, you know. And so property that's coming on the market in this market is taking more effort. I'm telling all of my sellers, hey, let's make sure we are thorough with the details, because attention to detail, it makes a huge difference. You've all heard it before, but impressions are huge, especially the first one. And it's not just you meeting the girlfriend's dad and mom for the first time or whatever, you know. You got to make a good first impression with your home as well, because buyers these days can afford literally to be stingy, because there's a little more selection, because there's a little bit more inventory on the market. That just means that you don't necessarily have a guarantee that just because your house is located in a desirable location, that it's just going to fly off the shelves. Now, I still have witnessed it as late as the end of last year, where that is still happening in certain neighborhoods, certain markets, certain niches, but it's not a guarantee. And so making sure your house is decluttered and tidied up and, you know, just overall paints a positive picture, one that prospective buyer can envision their own things in it, you know, that makes a big difference. Because if it's got a lot of stuff in it, even if you're living there, and I get it, that's not easy, especially if you have kids, to have it neat and tidy for showings and open houses, but it makes a huge difference if it's easy for you to envision your things all throughout the property you're seeing, or your, you know, family's things or whatever it is. As opposed to a bunch of clutter and stuff that isn't yours. It makes it more challenging for the buyer to envision their stuff. So, you know, just take that into consideration. You know, I'm always here to give the advice you're looking for, whether it affects me or not, or it, you know, my goal is, of course, to work with you. I want to have the opportunity to partner with you to help you accomplish your real estate dreams and goals, and whether that's buying or selling or both or investing, whatever that may be, let me know. I'm here. I love sharing knowledge and resources and getting you connected to the right referrals. And, you know, whatever questions you have, I just want you to know and encourage you. They don't teach us this stuff in school. You know, real estate is a very unique niche of a knowledge base, if you will. You know, it's certainly something where if you've done it before, buying and or selling, or you know, if you've done it before, it's a little less intimidating. But the first time, there's a lot there, you know, and it's a lot to consume. You know, I'm writing an offer. I've got it out for signature this morning for a buyer who I've worked with for a few years now. We came close to writing an offer a few times, but just never submitted one, just because we either missed it because it went under contract with someone else, or my buyer didn't feel comfortable and confident enough that was quite the right one. And so right now I've written this offer, but he has a lot of questions, and that's completely normal, guys. I want to encourage you, if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask your agent. I'm here to make it clean and clear so you feel comfortable and confident. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you. And in the meantime, I'm still cruising down here on Barranca. Gonna stop by my office to pick up some mail, and you know, coming up here on Culver down here in Irvine, California Fish Grill to the right. That place is bomb. Broken Yolk's pretty good too. I'm really super glad for each and every one of you who joins me as I cruise around Orange County and Southern California, and I look forward to the next time I get to be on with you guys. So thank you as always. Like and subscribe if you could. That really helps me a ton. Take care.